All right, welcome back to the Red and Blue Fight Pick Show. We are here to break down and give our picks for UFC Baku, Rountree versus Hill. But first, we're going to review UFC Atlanta, Usman versus Buckley. We started in the women's flyweight division as we had Jamie Lynn Horth taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. Lynn Horth with a dominant win here, 30-27 across the scorecards. This was pretty expected for us. Didn't give out any picks on this fight, but Demopoulos taking this fight on short notice, just outclassed pretty much everywhere. Quite the squash match. But moving up the card, Phil Rowe had a really impressive comeback performance, knocked out Angelosa in devastating fashion. Struggled to defend the takedowns early in the fight. I mean, our breakdown was pretty much on point with this fight. We felt Angelosa was going to be able to get the takedowns early. We were worried about his gas tank as the fight went on. Phil Rowe got rocked in the second round, got dropped. Ended up losing the second round as well, even though he had some momentum, and then really came on strong in the third round, and just literally was choking him and punching him in the face, and Losa just fell forward and got finished. Good win for Rowe. We didn't have any picks on this fight, but good job by Phil Rowe. Moving up the card, I was on Ricky Simone money line, a part of my I had 3 units completely on my parlay. I know Red Ray was on Smotherman here. Red Ray, what happened?
Didn't see the fight, so it's not my worry. I didn't have a bet on it, but all I know is that the fans were booing Simon, and he didn't get. He looked terrible as I expected. So he only won on one judge only had him up 29-28 against a guy on 3 days' notice that got knocked out multiple times by Gregorio. So if Simon can't knock him out, who knows what he can do at this point?
Anyway, Ricky Simone did what he needed to do. Got some takedowns, had control up against the cage. Pretty sweat-free win here for Ricky Simone. Moving up the card, Red Ray was on Jose Ochoa by inside the distance. Devastating knockout early in the second round. Won the first round and then caught Durden early, put him away clean. Very impressive win. Good job by Red Ray. Looking forward to Ochoa next time out. Moving up the card, Red Ray again was on Malcolm Wellmaker and Moutinho under 1.5 rounds. Easy win. Wellmaker put him out cold. Felt really bad for Moutinho. Just really selfish matchmaking by the UFC to want to see a man get destroyed. Wellmaker on the rise. I think he's going to get a big fight next time out, and hopefully they give Moutinho a winnable fight. Moving up the card, I was on Michael Chiesa. I wouldn't say this was sweat-free. I did think he won. He didn't really win any round super clearly to me. He was kind of, but he did exactly what I said. He was point fighting. I was striking him a little bit. I did think he was going to be able to wrestle a little bit more. He didn't really attempt too many takedowns. He felt he was getting better on the feet and didn't really have to resort to any wrestling, but overall, pretty clean win for Michael Chiesa. And then, unfortunately, we have to move up to the prelim finale as I was on Rodolfo Bellato money line, and unfortunately, Paul Craig is a cheater. He tried to kill him, man. I mean, up kicks are illegal. He up kicked him right in the face, put him out cold. It was clear as day. Poor Bellato just out cold like this. He came to his senses a little bit, and he was trying to fight the ref off of him. He was so dazed by what was going on. I felt so bad that they didn't give him the disqualification win because he clearly was out cold. So Red Ray, I'm sure you don't have any thoughts on this, right?
I've never been more embarrassed for you than during that performance. I told everyone not to bet on him. This is 2 straight times he's absolutely botched everyone's bets. Guy's embarrassing. He shouldn't be in the UFC. He basically just admitted that he got knocked out by Paul Craig, who couldn't hurt a fly. So I mean, anything he says at this point, he either faked it or he got knocked out by Paul Craig. It's a
Listen,
lose for
listen. The
Milano.
only way Paul Craig wins fights is off his back, and he threw an up kick that was illegal, caught him. Bellotto was on his way to winning this fight. I said he's better in rounds 2 and 3. He did that against Jimmy Crute, and he arguably won the first round. I felt he did. He got the takedown and landed some strikes until, unfortunately, Paul Craig had to be a cheater. But I don't think they should remake this fight. It would be the third time matching these guys up. They're not meant to be in the cage together, but. Either way, moved on to the main card. Alonzo Menafield had uh, a win over Umar Sy. He was a big underdog. This was easily the worst fight of the night. Very low volume, guys staring at each other. Uh, Sy controlled him up against the cage a little bit. You could argue Sy won. I don't really care. Neither of these guys went for the win. Um, Manafield won by decision. Probably got a pretty good number on that if you bet it. Moving up the card, I'm going to take this one for the red and blue fight picks here. Wow, we both like Mansour Abdul Malik and Brundage under 1.5. Red Ray, I don't think he liked it as much as me, although he did like it. But I thought that Brundage and Mansour were going to fight, and instead they were playing patty cake for a while. Just kind of dancing around, patty cake, baker's man, until finally, Malik had enough and said, "I hate patty cake. I'm going to headbutt you." Like a charging rhinoceros, headbutted him right up against the cage. Brundage goes out, drops right away. He loves to quit, so he saw an opportunity to quit, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to take this." And then it went to the scorecards based on how much time was left in the fight in the third round, um, and Malik won. I mean, I will say in the third round they actually started fighting a little bit prior to the headbutt. Um, but yeah, another really, really, really boring fight, very similar to the Umar Sy fight until the third round. And Abdul Malik was trying to say he didn't headbutt him. Um, Brother, you charged him and headbutted him right in the temple and
Looked
dropped
like
him.
looked like a
It was
young Bobby Green out there.
yeah, I mean, come on.
The
But
baffling, I would say, even more baffling is the fact that one judge gave him 30-27 there. Um, Mansour landed 4 strikes in the first round. I don't know how he possibly won that round. I mean, you could have almost given this decision to Brundage, honestly. I think the only round that Abdul Malik actually won was round 3. So the first, I think Brundage usually won the first round, and then second round they both landed 10 strikes. So
yeah, I think, if Paul Craig goes back to middleweight, this could be a good matchup here. A couple cheaters in the cage together. Moving up the card, we were on Cody Garbrandt, and he had a solid first round. Um, and then unfortunately, kind of in classic Garbrandt fashion, he kind of faded as the fight went on. Um, still had some moments throughout the fight, but it was a very competitive fight. I did think Barcelos edged him out in the second and third round. Um, Pretty disappointing. Wish we could have seen a little more cardio and effort out of Garbrandt as the fight went on. Red Ray, any thoughts?
I mean, these 3 fights in a row were just so brutal to watch. It was painful. I mean, combined, I think out of the last 2 fights in this one, they like all landed 100 strikes combined. I mean, Barcelos was usually pretty entertaining. He was just as unentertaining
Yeah.
as the rest of them. So it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed this fight just a little bit more because I was emotionally invested in it. It didn't feel as terrible as the previous few fights. Moving up the card, Red Ray was on Andre Petrowski by submission in rounds 2 and round 3, just a little sprinkle on each one there. Um, but Edmund showed improved takedown defense, just kind of outpointed him on the feet. Did drop him at one point. This was kind of another very boring fight. I was leaning Shabazian, but everyone had the same breakdown. They felt Shabazian would knock him out in the first round, um, or Petrowski would get the better of him in the grappling as the fight went on. But yeah, I was pretty high on Edmund. I didn't give out a pick, but got the job done. Uh, any other thoughts on that, Red Ray? I know you. were on Petrowski a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I know a lot of people thought Edmund was boring. Just from his usual, like everyone said that he was first round or bust. I thought it was his game plan was pretty on point because he didn't gas at all at any point, and he was. I mean, he wasn't like high volume or anything, but I mean, if he's gonna like move up in the and fight better opponents, he's got to fight more like he did right there than how he has been previously. So
I think that is an excellent point. Moving up the card, we went to the co-main event. We were on Rose Namajunas against Miranda Maverick. Um, Pretty easy win here. Rose was actually out grappling Miranda when Miranda is more of the grappler. Um, Pretty sweat-free win here. Wasn't the most exciting fight, but Rose got it done for us. Red Ray, any thoughts on this one?
no, I thought Rose would go to the. I thought she was the better grappler, and then she was the one who was able to get the takedowns. She almost got submitted there at the end of the second round, but for the most part, I mean, Rose was landing the better shots in the feet and was the better grappler, like I thought.
All right, we're going to go to the main event of the night, and I'm going to hand this one directly over to Red Ray as I fell asleep. And, this is Red Ray's all-time favorite fighter, and he picked against him as we were on Buckley in the three-unit play money line. Red Ray, what happened in this fight?
I mean, as we know, I couldn't have been more against him. I thought we had seen previously he had really struggled, looked slow. His takedowns were absolutely on point. I mean, I don't know if Buckley had done any wrestling training going ahead of this. He didn't even look like he knew how to get up from the bottom, but um, Usman was doing some open mat takedowns, which I love. That's his issue against Leon. He was going against the cage. Leon was able to stuff those. He was shooting doubles right in the middle of the cage, getting Buckley down. And once he got him down, he only got 4 takedowns, but one in the first 4 rounds. And Buckley never got up from any of the takedowns. And it's not like he shot him right away. He would for first about 2-3 minutes of each round, he just struck with Buckley. Buckley couldn't really do anything, and looked great. Really went back in time. 5th round is a little bit sketchy, but I think he was a little bit tired. It hadn't been 5 rounds in a little bit. It hasn't fought in a while, but he stayed safe. And Buckley, as per usual, he just didn't know. Like I said, I didn't think Buckley had improved at all. That was one of my comments, and he still doesn't look good. He In the 5th round, he probably had a chance to finish Usman if he just like knew how to strike, but he jumps in with his strikes, and every time he jumped in, he would miss his strikes. So he would do power shots, and he was like winging power shots that were like hitting Usman in the shoulder, and like none of them were on point because he doesn't like look. He doesn't have any technique with anything he does. So it's something to look at going forward. I mean, Buckley is going to get burned by anybody with actual good takedowns. So, but going forward, I think this Usman is back. He's never looked about as good as he always does. So just I think more time in the cage, and the cardio will come back, and we're I think we're a Bilal Muhammad domination away from a title shot again.
In my mind, I thought that Buckley's takedown defense looked pretty good against Colby Covington. I know Colby was taking that fight on very short notice. Said he wasn't really training afterwards either. And I thought Buckley's takedown defense would be good enough. And I thought he was going to have the better boxing on the feet. Um, and that's not what happened. So disappointing. Unfortunately, overall, we were down 1.9 units. Red Ray on his own was up about 2.5, and I was also up about 1.9. But first time we got swept in the red and blue picks. So overall, we are still up 0.53 units. Our backs are against the wall. Uh, we have been trending in the wrong direction here for a few weeks, but we are going to move on to UFC Baku. Rountree versus Hill. And we start in the men's and the only heavyweight division as we have Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Muhammad Usman. Hamdi minus 160, Usman plus 135. I'm going to take this one first. I'm really high on Hamdi in this fight, and that's mostly because I think Usman is terrible. Usman, really low volume. Um, only throws punches, not super technical, not super powerful. For a heavyweight, only has 4 TKO KO wins. Most of those coming on the regional scene. One coming against Zach Pauga in the Ultimate Fighter championship fight when Pauga is not in the UFC anymore and he's a light heavyweight. And Usman was losing that fight until he knocked him out. But um, other than that, he always goes to a really close decision. Um, but in this fight with Hamdi, I think that Hamdi is someone that can take him down. I was really high on Hamdi in his last fight too, and he really made me sweat it out because he just wasn't using the wrestling. I don't know why he was trying to outstrike. Even if this is a striking affair, I do think he can outstrike Usman with just how low volume he is. I do think there's an opportunity to finish him. I think Hamdi is the better striker, and he's 1,000% the better grappler. And with that being said, I do love Hamdi in this matchup. I just don't know how Usman wins. I mean, the only way he could ever win would be to out outpoint him. And again, he's just so low volume. He's such a terrible round winner. Doesn't do a lot of damage, and most certainly the crowd is going to be on the Hamdi side here. Um, and Hamdi, an Olympic wrestler, I don't see how Usman wins. Hamdi is also going to be the more physical, bigger, stronger guy in this fight. I love Hamdi all around. My prediction is by decision at plus 120. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, we're pretty aligned here. Neither of these guys are very good. Usman, to go to your point, his striking accuracy is 36% and his takedown accuracy is 17%. So both of those are brutal numbers. Hamdi, I think he might. I think the only thing is Usman might have a gas tank advantage. Um, but even though, I mean, we saw him gas pretty badly against Pogues last time. I think Pogues is better than Usman, and I think and his first fight he was on all the steroids, but we saw him against Dontel Mays, and obviously I think Dontel Mays is about Usman level. So neither of those guys really took advantage of Hamdi when he was tired. I think he still is halfway like competitive. He's not a quitter out there, so he's definitely going to gas again. But I still think even if he gasses, he could probably just outpoint Usman, and if he does, I think he could easily bank the first 2 rounds. Um, he's going to be able to take Usman down if he wants. And like you said, he didn't really do it last time, but it did look like he was gassed pretty heavily after the first takedown. So hopefully the cardio is a little bit better. But I mentioned to you earlier in the week that I think the Hamdi by decision is an absolute max play here because you got two narratives going against. One is he is going to have all the judges in his pocket. He's over there in uh, Azerbaijan, and also if you watch the line is going towards Usman, so all the money's on Usman. So now you're going to have Vegas in your pocket as well. You got two narratives right in Hamdi's thing. So if the judges have any pre-written scorecards, they're going to be in Hamdi's path here. So yeah, I think Hamdi by decision. I don't think either of these guys are really. If anybody finishes, it's Hamdi, but I don't think either of these guys are finishing each one.
Red Ray, have you heard of BKFC? Started a league where two guys fight on ice skates. Have you heard of
I
this?
no, I didn't. I didn't see that.
Because I had an excellent idea. Once Usman loses this fight, I think him versus Mays on hockey skates
Hmm.
is uh is going to be a real barn burner. I
That
can't
would
wait for
be
that fight.
that would be nice.
But
They're probably
until
real,
then,
really good skaters too. So
let's move up to the men's flyweight division as we have Tagir Ulanbekov at minus 455 with the comeback on Azat Maksum at plus 350. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I think the line's kind of wild here. I mean, Maxim was undefeated coming into that Charles Johnson fight last time. And he almost knocked out Charles Johnson in the first round and almost submitted him in the first round. He absolutely dominated him before he gassed. He arguably could have been a 10 or a draw because I think he possibly 10-8'd him in that first round. Um, he definitely gassed, but that could have been also an adrenaline dump that he had from almost finishing him twice. So um, he's obviously a good wrestler. Saw him beat Tyson Nam before that in his debut. Tyson Nam's a solid fighter. I think he's actually going to be the better striker here. Um, but I just think Ulanbekov is probably the better minute winner, and he's probably just going to have the better cardio also. We've seen him. He's his only loss in the last 5 is a Tim Elliott. Beat Clayton Carpenter's last fight timeout. Same with Cody Durden. He submitted him in the second round. He even beat Nascimento, we saw a while back, and who's also a great grappler like Maksum. So Maksum's got to try to keep this on the feet, but I think Ulanbekov's going to be good enough to get him down. There's probably going to be a lot of grappling exchanges, which I think goes in Ulanbekov's favor. So I'm going to go Ulanbekov by decision here, but I think it's much closer than the line says.
I think I'm higher on Ulanbekov than you are. Maksum, you said you said Tyson Nam's pretty solid. I was giggling to myself because I don't think Tyson Nam's very good. Um, I do think, and also Maksum before he came to the UFC had literally fought nobody with any sort of credential. Tagir is 5-1 in the UFC. Um, Maksum has fought in 2 close fights against much lower level competition. I think this is a huge step up for him against a guy with a wrestling base who is going to have the better cardio and has fought much better competition so far in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight win streak. I see him moving pretty easily in this fight. I got him by decision at -135. Moving up the card, we go to the women's bantamweight division as we have Irene Alekseeva at -285 with the comeback on Claudia Sygula at +270. Russian Ronda, as they call her, Irina, 1-1 so far in the UFC. Sygula, 0-1. Irina, pretty good, pretty good grappler, pretty good finisher. Especially for a women's bantamweight fighter. Did have a loss last time out against Melissa Mullins, who actually TKO finished Sylga in her lone fight in the UFC. Sylga got taken down pretty easily in that fight, and I think Irina is even a better wrestler grappler than Mullins was. And we were laughing before we came on about Sygula getting finished by Mullins. Literally, Mullins just was holding one of her arms down and punching her in the face, and Sygula just had no way of getting out of it or defense. She's a really young, raw girl, and I think Russian Ronda is kind of in her peak right now. She's been out for a while, which is a little concerning. I'm not sure if you know why that is, but I do think she'll find the finish, most likely by submission at +225. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, this should be an absolute. I don't understand. I didn't understand the line last time. I don't understand this line either. Irina should be like a -1,000 here. Claudia shouldn't be in the UFC. That fight against Mullins was very concerning. She's at American Top Team, so maybe she's getting better, but and she's only 26, but she's a stand-up fighter who does not have any power whatsoever, and she doesn't even look like she knows how to properly throw punches. And Mullins was literally just, I mean, not, I mean, it was a body lock trip, but it wasn't even a body lock. She basically just hugged her, and she just immediately fell down to her back and got mounted in the first and second round of that fight. Irina's, she's not the most technical fighter, but she just walks forward. And she throws hammers. You saw her against Mullins in the first round. She gassed after that, but first round she dropped Mullins. Was pretty competitive there. I think she's the Russian Ronda because of her judo, but she doesn't really have them. I think she only has one submission. I mean, I could see her doing. She does have the submission against Egger, so maybe she has two, but she has one armbar submission. And I mean, Egger's a pretty like mid-level UFC fighter, so and she smoked her in her debut. So I just think that she could beat Claudia. She's going to be the better striker. She's going to be the only one with power here. If she wants to take it to the ground, she can submit her, TKO her. It doesn't matter. The under's free money here, and I just think Irina just rolls through this fight.
Okay, let's move up the card. We're going to keep it in the women's bantamweight division as we have Daria, oh boy, Daria Zhelezniakova at plus 205 with the comeback on Melissa Mullins at minus 250. And this is Dair Zhelezniakova versus Mullins 2. But Red Ray, how do you have it?
I think it's Zhelezniakova.
Ah,
And that don't lock me
I'm
in
going
on
to call
that.
her Daria.
Yeah, that does seem like the smarter play. Yeah, like you said, this is a huge rematch that everyone's been asking about. I can't believe this isn't the main event. When did they fight? Oh, back in what promotion is that? Aries. Oh, Aries. Okay. So 4 years, 3 years ago. Um, I don't think either of them have really improved much since the first fight, so I think it could go down pretty similar. Daria was dominating the stand up in that one. Had Mullins hurt pretty badly, and then she but then Daria but getting goes taken down. Mullins took her down, and then was able to finish her pretty early after that. Daria has no ground game. You saw that also against Eileen Perez. She was winning the stand up there, got taken down, and Perez immediately arm triangled her, and she didn't even look like she knew. I think or like knew how to defend it. Eileen's not a huge submission. That was only Eileen's second win by submission. So and the first in the UFC. So she's basically just a wrestler. Her first fight, she fought Montserrat Rendon, who's not very good. So she won that by decision. But I mean, she is good at standing as she stand up, and I think she could possibly knock out Mullins standing up. Mullins, she hits hard, and Mullins doesn't have the greatest stand up in the planet, but she's been TKO'd by Nora Cornhole's also a pretty decent striker. But I just think Mullins is the much high level fighter here. Sure, I think she's either a brown belt or black belt in BJJ right now. She's got decent takedowns, and her ground and pound is like it's. She reminded me a little bit of Jillian Robertson with her ground and pound. It's very high level. Um, so I think, like you said, her one fight against. I mean, she did have the fight against um, who was at Sygula where she was just holding her hand. But besides that, she anytime she really gets on top. Against Irina, she was just absolutely just rolling all over the place on top of her. She flows very well from like the back to the front. She could have almost stopped Irina a couple of times with strikes, but she was trying to go for submissions. So it seems like she learned there. She also um, her fight against Cornhole. I think that was her first fight after she got divorced too. So it could have been why she had struggled in that fight. So she had also had a name change. So who knows? Maybe it was a big struggle. She also missed weight, so she probably just wasn't in the right headspace there in that fight. But she looked a lot better against Sygula, and I think she gets the fight here. But I do love the under 2.5 here also. But I think Mullins gets it done inside the distance.
Yeah, I won't spend too much time on this one. Pretty much aligned with everything you had to say. I do feel like Daria's last fight was pretty pathetic. I know that Perez is actually pretty good, but I mean it was pretty bad stomping in that fight. I was kind of looking back at some women's rematch history, and I know I looked at Rose's. I was looking back at her record, and anytime she was in a rematch, the result was basically the same. The Esparza fight, she lost twice. I know that was historically like the most boring fight in UFC history. She fought Zhang twice and beat her twice. So we know how good Zhang is. And then the other one was Jessica Andrade, and the first one was kind of a fluke when Andrade slammed, knocked her out. And then she won decisively the second time around. And with that being said, I'm not really sure that this fight's going to go much differently than the first one did. Um, and with that being said, I am on Mullins by TKO at plus 180. Moving up the card, we are in the men's middleweight division as we have Ismail Naurdiev at plus 160 with the comeback on Jun Park at minus 195. Ismail, in his second stint in the UFC, fought back in October against Bruno Silva. Couldn't put him away, which I think is a little concerning after we just saw Silva get stretchered out in his last fight. His first in the UFC, he was 2-2. Um, he did fight Sean Brady in his last fight. We know how good Sean Brady is. But that is when Sean Brady was still very young and not really at his peak yet. And the other guys he fought were very, very low level. Um, I think we've seen Ismail have success when he is the one dictating the pace of the fight, when he's the one initiating the grappling. Um, and kind of the same thing for Jung Young Park. We did see him struggle against Andre Muniz. We have seen Park struggle with some cardio issues, but I did think he looked better against Tavares. Being able to get takedowns on Tavares is very impressive to me. We know historically Tavares is very good with his takedown defense. Um, Still almost won that fight against Muniz. Is 8-3 overall in the UFC, with the only losses coming to Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. We know how good he is. RoboCop in a fight that he nearly won, but then got TKO'd. And then Muniz. And we know how Muniz has been very good at times, and has really dominated the lower level guys that have been put in front of him. I think this is a big step down for Jung Young Park. I like this matchup a lot for him. I actually do think he could submit him, and I have that at plus 400. My official pick is Jung Young Park by submission at plus 400. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, I don't think Naurdiev, like, I know he fought Bruno Silva last time. I don't even understand why he was brought back to the UFC. Um, I don't necessarily think he should have been cut in the first place. He was 2-2, and like you said, he lost to Brady. Um, so I don't think his stint was. But then they cut him, and then before they signed him, he had lost 2 out of his last 3, and beat a guy that was 14-8. So it wasn't like he was on some kind of tear back into the UFC or anything. So most of the guys he fights though on the regional scene are actually halfway decent. He has a win over a 12-3 guy, another knockout over a 5-0 guy. Um, and the guys he's losing to are like 16-1, 21-7, and 15-3. So he's actually fighting good competition, but his record's kind of not great. He's 21 and what is he, 24-7,
Yeah.
which is a lot of fights for a guy that's 28 years old. So he should be in the prime of his career, but I mean, against Bruno Silva, he looked okay, nothing crazy. He took him down a couple of times. We know Bruno Silva doesn't really stop takedowns. He was throwing the stand up looks good. So I mean, he's not a bad fighter. I just don't know if he's really great anywhere. Park's kind of the same way. He's more has no power whatsoever. I didn't really love his fight against Tavares. He got dropped in the first round, which he was getting beaten up pretty badly by Tavares in the first round, which I don't love because Tavares is obviously not great or has no power either. Um, so I mean, he was able to turn it on. His cardio is definitely his biggest weapon. I think he probably can use that um, to win this fight here. Also, Jesus needs to be able to stuff the takedowns. Obviously, we saw him get taken out 11 times by Muniz, who's not the greatest takedown guy on the planet. So I didn't love that look either for him. But yeah, I just think he's going to be able to. If they go standing, Park is usually pretty good at. He's got a good chin. He's very durable. I think he's going to be able to land more strikes standing up, and he's just got to stuff the takedown. So I like Park by decision also, but I'm not overly confident in him.
Yeah, let's move up to the welterweight division as we have Sokun Ko at plus 350 with the comeback on Oban, the Welsh gangster Elliott at minus 455. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Obviously, the line shows that I'm actually back in this line. Elliott was supposed to fight a couple weeks ago. Um, do you know if he was supposed to fight the guy who won, the guy who guillotined Billy Rakoff? I can't remember his
Um,
name.
yeah, I can't think of it either off the top of
Yeah.
my head, but I'll
Anyways,
let
so
you
but
talk.
that would have been an actually competitive fight because that guy has looked good recently. But Elliott's coming off the finish of Basil Hafez, which was pretty impressive. I mean, he was dominating the fight before that, and
Ramaz Brahma.
Brahimaz, that's right. Um, and he's got. I mean, he's 1-4. He's 4-0. He's great on the mic also. So I do hope he wins this one and he gets back on the mic. He's one of the more entertaining guys. But I like that he got the finish last time because his first three were just by unanimous decision. But I think he's looked a lot better. His first fight in the UFC against Val Woodburn. Obviously, Val Woodburn's out as low as possible. He got uh, knocked down at one point before he won the last two rounds, but he looked much better against Parsons, was stuffing all Parsons takedowns, and then it looked like he leveled up even more against Hafez's. I mean, Hafez was only able to land 24 strikes in that fight, so he's pretty much. I just like how he's. I mean, he's good everywhere. We saw him in the UFC on the Contender Series against Igor Cavalcante. He looks like he's okay everywhere. Not great. He ended up probably pretty even on the feet with Cavalcante, and then he was able to get a couple of late takedowns and um, control him. Didn't look like he was overly impressive on the ground. There were some weird positions they were in. Um, Cavalcante looked more like he was lost on the ground also, so he was able to control him. He won't be able to control Elliott. I think Elliott's going to push the pace here. He could possibly get another late round finish, but I know Coe's been submitted a couple of times, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to get that done. But I think Elliott rolls here. I mean, the minus 3.5 is, I think, minus 195 helps get the line down a little bit, but I don't think Coe has any finishing equity that would worry that he may steal a round with like a knockdown or something like that. So I think Elliott wins all three rounds at the very least.
Yeah, pretty aligned here. I think we're pretty big Oban Elliott fans. I know I am. I did think the last fight was going to be more competitive, and he pretty much dominated Basel Hafez. I thought Basel might try to wrestle a little more. We saw him wrestle a ton against uh, JDM, and then he didn't even attempt a single takedown. But we know Elliott does have good wrestling anyways, but I was really impressed with him in his last fight. I do think that this is a slight step down for him. I actually think Parsons is pretty good too. If those two guys were fighting Coy, I think I would pick them over Coy. Um, and in the Woodward fight, yeah, but uh, Coy really hasn't had much competition other than this last fight. He was a pretty big underdog on their contender series. Was able to take him down and get him tired, out grapple him. I don't think that's going to be a path for him here in this fight. I think Oban's wrestling and takedown defense is going to be way better than his is. And I think that Oban has shown really improved striking in the four fights that we've seen him here in the UFC. I like Oban a lot in this fight. He isn't the biggest KO artist by any means. Most of his fights are won by decision, and ultimately that is what I think will happen. He was on his way to also winning a decision until he caught Basel with a great strike and was able to finish him. But prior to that, he had won 7 fights, 6 fights in a row by decision. And I like him here again by decision at minus 110. Moving up the card, we go to the men's featherweight division as we have Muhammad Naimov at minus 275 with the comeback on Bogdan Grad at plus 225. Grad showed a lot of heart in his last fight, getting dominated in the first round against Lucas Alexander. Came back, showed his heart, was able to take down and beat up Alexander. Alexander got a little tired in the second round. When I thought this fight was over in the first round, I thought that Grad was done. I didn't think he had any chance of coming back. Proved me and a lot of people wrong. Had a really entertaining fight on the contender series against Michael Aswell. We just saw Michael Aswell a few weeks ago, taking a fight on short notice, and was very competitive. He's actually a pretty good fighter. Uh, this was a razor close fight that Grad won by split decision. Was able to get some takedowns. And then he did get finished by Tom Nolan up a weight class a couple years ago. And it just looked like half the size of Nolan in that fight. But I do think Rod is solid. I do think this is a big step up though for him. I think Muhammad Naimov is actually pretty good. He is a good grappler. He's had a little bit of cardio issues. Um, Had a really competitive fight against Felipe Lima, who's a big prospect right now in the UFC. Was able to beat Nathaniel Wood, which is very impressive in my eyes. I do think Nathaniel Wood is very good. And he has a couple TKO wins against some lower level guys so far in the UFC. Um, I think this line is a little bit wide, but I am on the Muhammad Naimov side. We haven't seen anyone try to grapple Bogdan Grad yet. No offensive grappling, that is, and that's certainly going to be a test for him here against Muhammad Naimov. And I do like Naimov here by decision at plus 150. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Pretty much aligned. I don't think you mentioned Grad fought Michael Aswell. I think when we did the breakdown, I mentioned I didn't wasn't as big on Aswell as you were. Um, and like you said, I think he honestly lost that fight. You see, he got outstruck in all 3 rounds. He got takedowns, but none of them were. He had no control time, so he got outstruck 102 to 155 in that fight. So I'm not sure. I think that was just he got lucky on the judge's decision there. He was getting beaten up. I think Alexander's pretty talented, but like you said, he's cardio issues and um, just he's kind of a quitter. So he did get knocked out by Sergey also. So he's got some chin issues. So I think Grad is like I mentioned. I think he's like a very poor man's Andres Gustafsson. He likes to push forward. Not very technical. Wants to get into clinch. Wants to grapple. I think he's definitely going to have an issue here with Naimov. I think Naimov's going to be much stronger. I think he's definitely going to be a harder hitter than pretty much anyone he's faced besides, I guess, Tom Nolan. Um, I don't really understand I was looking at his fight history. Naimov, after he beat Nathaniel Wood, who's pretty high level in the division. I mean, he got Eric Silva, and I mean Felipe Lima was good, but um, that was his UFC debut. And then he's got Con Offley. I don't understand the matchmaking here. It seems to be going
I thought the
backwards now.
same thing. Yeah, I
And
thought
now
that
he's
was
fighting
silly.
Grad. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean, he was when he was honest. He was arguably he was 1-1 going into the third against Lima. I think he might have actually been up 2-0, but I think he probably was 1-1, and then he got rear naked choked. I just don't think Grad's got to really push the pace here and really try to tire him out. Like you said, there's kind of a cardio issue. Um, but I just think that if he doesn't tire out Naimov here, then Naimov's just going to be the more technical, stronger fighter. So I'm going to take Naimov by decision. But like you said, the line's kind of wide. I mean, I don't know I didn't look at what the decision line is, but I don't think he's going to finish Grad. Grad only been finished by Tom Nolan, so um, it
Yeah.
might be a close.
Naimov
Maybe
by decision at plus 150.
it's not a bad line. I feel like that's probably his main path to victory here. So, but yeah, I'll take my Naimov by decision.
Okay, let's move up the card to the lightweight division as we have Nazim Sadykhov at minus 500 with the comeback on Nicholas Motta at plus 350. I also want to point out that this is our first fighter fighting in his home country, Nazim Sadykhov, originally from Baku. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I'm a big Sadykhov fan. I think he's a solid fighter, very entertaining. Um, I think he's what is he 3-0-1 in the UFC now, 4-0-1 if you count the contender series.
Oh, and we do. We
We
certainly
do.
do.
We absolutely
Yeah.
do. And I mean, he had that win against or the draw against Borshev. He
Yeah, I
should
have him
have.
at five and
Yeah,
zero.
I mean, I don't. I think it depending on the ref in that fight, that should have easily been stopped in the second round. So, um, and I think everyone said that he lost round 3, but I think he was absolutely death gas from basically killing Borshev in the second round. So I don't know if I really blame him for that. He lost the first round too, but Borshev's a high level striker, so I don't really blame him for that. Saw him against Terrence McKinney. He was able to weather Terrence McKinney's wild first round that he has. I think McKinney had his back and was able to stay safe, tire him out, win in the second round like he does. He probably lost the Evan Elder fight. He was down 2-0, but he caused a cut that the referee stopped. So, but Evan Elder's a good fighter, so that's not really a bad loss. And it wasn't like he was getting dominated. It was a pretty back and forth, entertaining fight. Um, and you got Motta on the other hand. He's coming. He's got two straight wins over Nolan and Mahashate, but I don't think Nolan's very high level. Mahashate is very low level. The fight before that, he absolutely got dominated versus Trey Ogden. He was in the middle of going out via submission, and referee stopped it 2 seconds too early. So he got lucky there. He got absolutely dropped by Torres, a huge elbow. He's a good striker. He just wants to keep it standing, but he's not very high volume. He obviously has an opportunity here to win by knockout. He hits heavy enough to win by knockout, but I think Sadykhov just has multiple paths to victory. If he wants to take him down, he can. If he wants to strike with him, he can. I think Motta's. He looks like he's very small. I mean, he's only got a 1 inch height difference here, but every time I see him, he looks like he's like really miniature compared to everybody else. I think it might be because he has no muscle mass either. So he's very slight. I feel like I can't imagine he's much heavier than 155 when he starts cutting. So last fight, Sadykhov fought Ishmael Bonfim. I think I'd probably have Ishmael Bonfim as like a minus 200 against Motta. He stopped. He doctor stopped him at the end of the first round. So um, I think he can do. I think he has multiple paths here. He can submit him, TKO him, no matter what. So yeah, I'm heavy on Sadykhov here.
Yeah, very much aligned here. I really like Sadykhov in this fight. I mean, I know he's minus 500. I think this guy is really good, really technical, training with Sarah fight team and obviously Marab. I know Marab's going to be in his corner for this fight. I think you could argue this is his lowest level guy he's going to fight other than the contender series fight. You could certainly argue it. I think that Motta has one path to victory by first round KO. He does have power, certainly, but he also has notoriously been finished by KO. Uh, and yeah, his last fight, Mahashate is nowhere near the level of Sadykhov. I like Nolan a lot more than you do. I do think that that was kind of a fluky win. I think Nolan beats him probably eight times out of 10. Um, and then his only other win in the UFC came by KO against a 15-7 Cameron Van Camp. Um, I like Sadykhov a lot here. I could see him finishing him uh, maybe in the second or third round. I do have him by KO at minus 105. But again, overall, I just want to say I think this is Sadykhov's lowest level fight so far in the UFC. He's the home guy here, and I really like him in this fight. I do think he's going to finish him. So moving up the card, we're going to keep it in the lightweight division as we have the debuting Tofuk Musayev at plus 135 with the comeback on Matabek Orolbai at minus 160. Uh, Red Ray knows I'm a huge Orolbai guy. I do think he's really good. Last fight, really competitive. One of the fights of the year last year between him and Rebecki, really competitive fight that he ultimately lost by split decision. His other two fights, though, came against solid competition. Um, Elvis Brenner, pretty solid fighter, training at Shoot the Box with Oliveira and those guys. Orolbai had a pretty dominant win there. Attempted 17 takedowns, had 7 minutes of control time. And then his other fight, he ran through Rosmetic, who I also think is a pretty solid opponent. Um, and he was able to take him down 7 times out of 10 for 7.5 minutes of control before finishing him by neck crank. And really, I only think that his opponent here hasn't fought in almost 2 years. I think the only reason he's getting this fight is because he is from Baku, and they were trying to get a few more guys. I mean, he's on a two-fight win streak in Risen against lower level guys with decent records. Um, But other than that, I don't really think that he is UFC caliber. I mean, he's a pretty good striker, but I do think Orolbai is going to be able to get him down pretty easily. And I do think he's going to submit him. I think Orolbai is going to be relentless with the takedowns. He is the younger guy by 8 years. He's going to be a little bit longer reach. And I'm going to say this again. I think this is his lowest level guy he's going to fight so far in the UFC. Um, I think Orolbai is going to make a pretty clean win here of the newcomer and the veteran Musayev. I like Orolbai by submission. Pretty good number here at plus 450. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Um, yeah, I don't think I've watched a couple of Two Feeks fights. Great striker. Obviously, he's got 18 KOs out of his 22 wins. But I don't know what the level of opponents are. Seems like anytime he fights anybody halfway decent, either doesn't get the knockout or loses. His fight against Alexander Shabali, who's a pretty high level guy in Bellator, just fought for the title his last fight and lost by decision to Usman. But he was pretty much losing the first two rounds. He wasn't throwing anything. There was a stand-up affair for the first two rounds. He was getting beaten up. Then Shabali landed a front kick to his chest that kind of came down, hit him in the cup. He tried to claim that he got hit below the belt. Herzog went and saw the replay, showed that he didn't get hit below the belt. So they had the translator tell him that he had to start fighting again or else the fight was over. And he just said no, he wasn't ready to fight yet. So I don't even know. It couldn't even really tell if he got hit in the cup. It could have been either. It could the hip. He really just got front kicked in the chest and then just quit. So that was a really bad look for me. His other loss was against Roberto de Souza, who's also a good fighter, but a jiu-jitsu guy. He didn't look like he had any idea what to do on the ground. He ended up on top of a scramble, and de Souza put in a triangle choke almost immediately and just like got submitted. So, like you said, he's 35. I was looking down at his things. He had a unanimous decision over Darren Cruikshank, and it was only a unanimous decision, so he didn't even finish him. I was hoping it might have been 12 years ago. It was only 6 years ago. And in his prime, and I don't know if you remember Darren Cruikshank, but he
I do.
was an Ultimate Fighter guy. His final record, I think, was like 24-15 or something like that. Wasn't the greatest fighter on the planet.
It's very entertaining, though.
Yeah, he loved to just go out there. I mean, he had a lot of finish losses. He got rear naked choked by Paul Felder in his career, so that's not a great look. But he did have his last win was against in the UFC was against Chi Nujukwane's brother. So just an interesting tidbit there. But so yeah, that's not a great look when in your prime you're facing a 36, 37-year-old Darren Cruikshank and you can't finish him. So yeah, I mean Orolbai, we saw him in his last fight, was super entertaining, like you said, against Robeski. I think Robeski is actually pretty high level, not the greatest gas tank, but the guy hits like a truck and is just all around a good fighter. So, and Orolbai fought 2 rounds with that with one eye, so his eye was completely shut going into the second round, and he he actually won the second round pretty easily, and then got almost killed again in the third round. The announcers were calling for it to be finished, and he just like a zombie, like he just keeps standing up. So. I don't know if he just, and at that point his nose was busted open, and he actually ended up hurting Robeski at the end of the third round. So almost won the round back. It was pretty crazy. But and then we saw him against Brenner. I think he didn't look great against Brenner, but he looked like he kind of slowed down there too. But Brenner's he's a tough guy. He's not overly talented, but he's an entertaining fighter also. But but like you said, I just think the ground game here is going to be a huge advantage for Orolbai. I think I don't think he might not be able to get a takedown in the first round, but I think he's going to wear on Musayev and then get him down second, third round, like you said. I don't think Musayev hits hard enough to TKO Orolbai. I don't know if anyone in the world TKOs Orolbai at this point. So he seems to he'll just keep standing up. So I think the only way that he gets finished is if a our ref feels bad for him, but because he's just bleeding and can't see out of any eyes. Um, so yeah, I just think Orolbai's going to zombie through this thing. He's either going to win round 2 and 3 and they go to decision, or he's going to get a submission here. So
Okay, let's move up the card. Go to the heavyweight division as we have Curtis Razor Blaydes making his return at minus 250 with the comeback on the debuting Rizvan Kuniev at plus 200. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I'll be honest, I don't have a good read on this fight at all. Kuniev, saw him on the Contender Series against a guy who honestly didn't even look like he wanted to fight. Hugo something. The guy was like 2 seconds into the round was just like I think he just wanted to get the fight to the ground. Was just covering up against the cage and letting Kuniev just kind of hit him. Kuniev does have a win over Renan Ferreira, who we know is the huge guy from PFL that just fought Francis Ngannou, but he also got that overturned to a no contest because he was on, I think, 4 different types of steroids. So, and if you ever look at Kuniev previous to the Ferreira fight earlier in his career, and to how he looks now, you can tell that wasn't the only fight he was on steroids. So he was a very shredded individual at one point, and now he looks like he may have 45% body fat. So there is a much different in his body, but overall he looks like a solid fighter. I don't know how great his gas tank is. He has a couple of decision wins, but nobody decent. But he hits hard. He won the last fight against that Hugo with a nice knee to the belly, but that guy wasn't really fighting, so it's hard to really say. And then that being his only fight since he's basically not on steroids anymore, it's hard to know like how he's going to keep going on to this. And then, I mean, we've seen Curtis Blaydes a bajillion times now in the UFC. The guy should have won a championship by now, but he seems to have the lowest fight IQ in the division. He's a pretty high level wrestler that does not wrestle. He's started to become a decent boxer, but doesn't really have great power with his boxing. So I think he knocked out Chris Daukaus and all of a sudden thought he had like huge power in his hands, but doesn't really seem to have any power against anybody decent. Saw him against, obviously, he finished Jailton Almeida when Almeida just hugged his knee and just refused to move from the position, which was a really wild thing. So, so his last 4 fights have been pretty underwhelming. He has the 2 against Aspinall. He lost the one by knockout. The other one was a knee injury by Aspinall. He got knocked out by Sergey Pavlik. And then the Almeida one, which he was getting dominated until he got that finish. So it's hard to really know what he's going to look like here. I'm assuming he's going to try to keep it standing. I could see Kuniev knocking him out. If he wrestles, maybe he could win. I think Blaydes, obviously, he's shown that he's got good cardio for a heavyweight. I've seen him multiple times late in the fights against Rosenstruck. That win over, I mean, it's a long time ago now at this point, but it was even longer than I thought. But that his 3rd round win over Alistair Overeem, those ground and pound and that he was hitting him with was wild. I don't know how he didn't just do that, like see that how good he was doing that and just continue to do that, because his ground and pound is probably one of the best in the heavyweight division. So, yeah. So I mean, if he comes with a good game plan, gets Kuniev down, I think he can finish Kuniev with ground and pound, and I think he can finish anyone with the ground and pound. So, if it stands up, he's probably the more technical fighter. But if he gets hit with anything in the chin, he gets knocked out at this point, and Kuniev hits hard enough to knock him out. But I'll take Blaydes by TKO. But like I said, I think it's a pretty 50-50 fight.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely higher on Blaydes than you are here. And again, you've seen a little bit of a pattern here with my breakdowns, but again, I think this is just such a big step down for Blaydes compared to who he's been fighting. Kuniev, sure he's 12-2, but I'm not really impressed by anyone he's fought. I don't think that this guy in the Contender Series that he finished just I don't say gave up, because he did hit him with a good shot, but I mean, you even said it didn't really seem like he wanted to be there. Kuniev hasn't shown like devastating knockout power. A lot of TKO wins. And that's usually Blaydes' kryptonite, right? Is that he has been KO'd before, but he's 13-5 in the UFC, and every loss has been by KO. But every guy that's KO'd him does have insane one punch KO power. I don't think we've seen that from Kuniev yet. And we know how good Blaydes is. And you mentioned the fight IQ. That's really my only concern in this fight. Um, he needs a win. He's lost two of his last three. Obviously, the knockout to Tom Aspinall, the KO loss to Pavlovich, and was losing that fight to Almeida until he got those clinch elbows that knocked him out. He's been out for a while. We haven't seen him since the summer of last year, almost been a full year. Um, we know that that last fight got canceled because he was sick against Kuniev, but I think he's healthy now. I do think he's going to be a much better wrestler. We've seen Kuniev lost. I mean, this was 10 years ago, but losses to Justin Willis and Darko Stosic, who were low-level guys during their UFC runs. One of which Blaydes beat up on Justin Willis. I think this is a huge step up for Kuniev. I think this is by far and away the biggest fight of his career so far. And I think you could argue that this is the uh, worst guy that Blaydes has fought. Other than Dawkins, I think this is his biggest step down in competition over his last 10 fights. I see you unmuted there. Were you going to say something
I
else?
was just gonna say it. Also, it kind of reminds me of when they forced Gaziv to fight Rosenstruck out of nowhere, like when he only had one fight in the UFC. Like the fact that Kuniev's getting this fight. I mean, Blaydes is number 5 ranked in the division, so the fact that he's getting this off of a contender series, and we saw what I think Gaziv had one fight, and then he was taking on a top 10 heavyweight. And we saw how that went. Gaziv almost had a heart attack in the 4th round. So. Um, I mean, it's luckily it's not a 5 round fight here or a main event, but seems like a similar like they're just trying to push a new like guy to because the
They're
heavyweight
desperate
division
for
is such yeah.
heavyweights. They're
Hmm.
desperate for heavyweights. But Blaydes is the real deal. I mean, he's fought for a title a couple times. Again, huge step up for Kuniev, huge step down for Blaydes. I think Blaydes is the better overall fighter. Even if this was a kickboxing fight, I think Blaydes could win. I'm hoping that he's going to be coming in with a good wrestling game plan here because there's no reason to never not wrestle when you're Curtis Blaydes. But sometimes he likes to try to throw hands. But either way, I like Blaydes even on the feet. I like Blaydes a lot in this spot, and we haven't seen Kuniev be finished before, so I'm going to go with Blaydes by decision. But I could see him taking him down and landing some of those razor blade elbows we've seen many times, and finding a finish. But I think ultimately it will be Blaydes by decision at plus 200. We're going to move up to the men's lightweight division, the co-main event. Really looking forward to this fight. I think this is the people's fight of the night as we have Rafael Fiziev. This is the third and final Baca guy at plus 110 with the comeback on Ignacio Bahamondes at minus 130. We're going to start on the Fiziev side here. Once again, very similar to what I think a lot of the story is in this whole card. Um, I think this is a bit of a step down for Fiziev. He's coming off the fights against Justin Gaethje and obviously the injury against the Gamrot fight. Very competitive in the most recent Gaethje fight. Did get dropped at one point, but I think Gaethje has much bigger power than Bahamondes does. Um, Fiziev was able to even get a couple takedowns in that fight. Not really control him at all. I thought he won the first Gaethje fight. Prior to that, he was on an absolute tear in the UFC. Um, and, unfortunately had that injury to Gamrot. I did think he was winning. Wasn't a lot to judge in that fight. But I think Fiziev is very, very good. He's healthy. I thought he was very competitive in that last fight with Gaethje. Um, and I don't think Bahamondes is a better striker than him. I think Fiziev, he is the Muay Thai guy. We saw Bahamondes just submit Jalen Turner, but I didn't know Jalen Turner was going to quit after that fight and retire. Fiziev certainly ain't doing that. He's fighting in his home country. Bahamondes has been good lately, but again, he's fighting much lower level guys than Fiziev. We know Manuel Torres has proven he's a little chinny. Um, and then prior to that, he beat Christo Gagias, who's 20-12 overall. And then he just beat a Turner who had one foot out the door going into that fight. I do think Bahamondes is a good prospect. I think this is too big of a step up at this point in his career. Um, Going from a quitting Turner and Manuel Torres to a Rafael Fiziev, I think is a huge step up. Um, and I don't see Fiziev having issue with stuffing the takedowns or being worried about getting submitted here. And also, when we've seen Fiziev fight these longer, rangier guys, he's had a lot of success. We did see him TKO finish Hanato Moicano, who has a similar build, and we know how good Money Moicano is. And with that being said, in the same way, we've seen Bahamondes kind of struggle with some of these smaller guys. We saw him struggle against Ludovic Klein, losing that by decision, and John McDessie, who's even much lower level than these guys with a similar build to Fiziev and a similar fighting style to Fiziev. Um, he really struggled against him. The guys he's been fighting lately are taller, lengthy guys, similar to himself. Um, and Fiziev is just a monster. I think this is going to be too big of a step up for him. I really like this line on Fiziev. We're getting plus money. I like Fiziev ultimately by decision. We have yet to see Bahamondes be finished by TKO. We know that Fiziev's not really a grappler, submission guy. So I like Fiziev by decision at plus 275. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, I like Fiziev here also. I think his last fight, you saw how it looked like his technically in the first round he was pretty dominant over Gaethje. I know he took the fight on short notice. Looked like he slowed down a lot in the second and third round. But also looked like he was trying to be not as trying to be more patient, more technical in that fight. So I think he was afraid to gas because he gassed in the first fight against him in the third round. Um, but he still looked like he still had the speed and the power that he usually had. So coming off the injury, you're probably worrying if he might be slower or anything. But and then he looked like I mean, he had the two takedowns. You said he didn't have control. The one they got into a weird grappling situation, and he kind
He
of
just
got
got
into
up, right?
no, he
Sorry.
got into he got into like a reverse triangle on top of, and he was like sitting on Gaethje's face, and it was actually a pretty decent I was pretty impressed with Fiziev because it looked like Gaethje was gonna stuff the takedown and get up all over like immediately, and Fiziev got into some kind of reverse triangle position. Gaethje ended up getting up, but he like kind of was sitting on top of him, landing these nice body shots for a while. But it was more the grappling sequence that was more impressive than the actual takedown itself because obviously Gaethje is not the best jiu-jitsu guy, but he'll get right back up if you try to take him down. And the fact that he was able to out like jiu-jitsu him, and I mean you don't think when you think of Fiziev, you don't think of jiu-jitsu at all. So obviously he's been putting in work there also in the grappling, and he hits hard like you said. I think Bahamondes has gotten a lot better. Um, he just looks a lot more confident in the fight. I think that Torres fight was a good win for him just because that is kind of the guy that usually gives him issues is a pressure guy, and he just absolutely sparked Torres with a step back right twice and knocked him out. That was in I think that was at the spear, and then of course the finish over Turner, which he kind of just fell to his back and just got the submission there. I think he might have even pulled guard. The Gallegos fight wasn't impressive, but that's pretty low level. And then the Klein fight, like you said, that it's probably the closest fight because you have Klein, who's similar build to Fiziev. They strike pretty similarly. Um, I would say Fiziev probably has more power there, and he was getting taken down by Klein. I think he can get. I think Fiziev can get the takedowns here if he wants. The the reach advantage is not actually as significant as you would think. I mean, I think he is going to be 3 at 4. He's 7 inches taller than Fiziev, but only a 4-inch reach advantage. So Fiziev has long arms. So I think he's not going to be as stuck on the outside as most people might think. Also mentioned the Makdessi fight. That wasn't great. He got hit 124 times by Makdessi. It just seems like he doesn't love when people pressure him like that. And then, like you said, Fiziev did get dropped by Gaethje, but Gaethje's power on top is peak of the division. Bahamondes, while he hits hard and he's a dangerous fighter, doesn't hit that way. I think the more dangerous things would be probably his knees or his kicks, to be honest, because he does have long legs. So the kicks are probably more dangerous than anything. But yeah, I think Fiziev could probably just beat up his legs with kicks. I think you can still hurt Bahamondes in the body. He had a couple of nice body kicks to Gaethje. I think he can do that. I think he might be able to get a finish here. I think he hits hard enough. If not, I do think he wins at least 2 out of the 3 rounds here. So also on the Fiziev side.
All right, let's go to the main event of the night as we have Jamal Hill in the light heavyweight division at -110 with the comeback on Khalil Rountree Jr. at -110. This fight is a pick'em. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I am going to be on the Hill side here, as sad as it makes me seem, because I'm not a Hill fan in the least. And I actually do enjoy watching Rountree. I mean, we saw him against the last fight look good against Pereira for 2.5 rounds. Hurt Pereira at one point. I think he's a good striker. Obviously, has his leg kicks are. The problem is it seems like he skips every other fight where he uses them. I think if he wanted to, he could have dominant leg kicks like some of the guys in the UFC, but he seems to only use them when he wants to. I think he gets caught up with punching with his hands, which I don't think his hands are as good as if he uses all of his techniques. But just think overall he's a good fighter. No ground game with either of these guys, so I don't think we have to worry about that at all. It's going to be purely a stand-up affair. Hill's coming off the loss to Yuri, where he got knocked out in the 3rd round. Yuri is just impossible to game plan or get prepared for. The guy his finishing combination that he knocked Hill out was one of the prettiest things you're ever going to see. So, but it's not like Hill was getting just overly beat up, but he just definitely looked a lot slower after that was his first fight, I think, since his injury. He also had an Achilles injury, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's been knocked out 2 times in a row. The Pereira fight, obviously, we know about that. He's complained about it nonstop, but it was a clean, just straight knockout. Before that, he had 4 wins in a row. At this point, they're all low-level guys, but at the time, they were probably light heavyweight division isn't the greatest in the world. The fight before the Pereira fight was obviously Glover. He landed 232 significant strikes, which is absolutely wild in 5-round fight. Before that, it was Santos TL. He finished Johnny Walker. Everybody finishes, and Jimmy Crute finished him. And then also lost to the great Paul Craig by submission. Or no, it was actually a TKO. Oh, did they call it a TKO because he broke his arm?
Yeah, he didn't tap, and then the ref stopped it.
That's right. I remember that. I thought he was in a submission, but you're right. That's right. He just broke his arm. But that's how dangerous Paul Craig is. So you just never know when he's going to get you. And so yeah, but I just think here the issue is going to be. I think the first couple of rounds are going to be pretty competitive. I think the first 3 rounds should be super competitive. Rountree honestly probably does the more damage and has the more, I guess, eye-catching shots. I think Hill will probably have the more volume. And he'll also lean clean, but he only really punches. Rountree will throw legs. So I think Rountree probably wins at least the first 2 rounds, if not all 3. The issue is that we saw in the Pereira fight, he doesn't have the greatest gas tank in the planet. We've never seen him go 5 rounds before. This is 5 rounds. And I think we've seen Hill multiple times, or not multiple, maybe just against Glover, but like we just said, he threw 232 strikes. His gas tank is not really an issue. He has that fat boy body where there's no muscle, so he doesn't get tired at all because there's no muscle for the oxygen to go to. So he just keeps producing oxygen. So I think he's going to take over in the late rounds, and I think he might get a finish here. I don't know if Roundtree. Well, he's got heart. I don't know. It seems like he can get finished late by um, if you just keep pouring it on him, and I think Hill could do that. Um, if not, then I think the third round is going to be the ultimate decider to see who wins the decision. But I think Hill's just going to do the more volume in the late rounds and get the win here because I don't think Roundtree has the power to finish him. I don't think he hits like Yuri or Alex. So that's my call. So I think the line's pretty on point for it's a toss up fight, but I'm going to lean towards Hill here.
Yeah, we're very much aligned here. I think, yeah, this one's tough. I am leaning the Jamal Hill side as well. Once again, I think that, if Yuri was fighting Roundtree, I would be picking Yuri. I thought Jamal Hill was very competitive in that fight. I know we were like jumping up and down for Yuri to win that fight. And he came through for us, and we were on Pereira against Jamal Hill. I mean, I'm not going to call it a fluke. I mean, it was a little bit of a weird interaction there, and he got knocked out. Absolutely dominated Glover, dominated Thiago Santos, knocked out Johnny Walker. As much as I don't like his character, he's a pretty good fighter. Um, and Roundtree to me, he never deserved the title shot. TKO'd Anthony Smith. We know Anthony Smith's Anthony Smith. TKO'd Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus gets knocked out by everybody. Thought he lost the fight to Dustin Jacoby in a split decision win that the judges gave him. Um, TKO'd Carl Robertson. Not impressed by that. TKO'd Bukakis 1.0. Now Bukakis 2.0 is much better. And then had lost three of his last four. I think Roundtree is a little overrated. I don't even think he's the most accurate striker. I mean, he's certainly got power, but he doesn't have like super. He doesn't have like hands like Pereira. He could not put you on one punch. To me, I mean, he certainly could, but like we haven't seen a lot of like stiff knockouts from him where we have seen those from Jamal Hill. We haven't seen Roundtree get put out too bad. I mean, obviously he was finished in that Pereira fight, but that was more of just completely exhausted. Um, he gave it his all in those first couple rounds. I mean, he went for the kill. He certainly did. Um, but only landing 62 strikes over the course of near 20 minutes. Um, so I'm right up in the same alley as you here, where I do think this fight is going to go long. I could see Hill finishing him in the later rounds. I don't see Hill getting finished. I mean, again, that Yuri finished. It wasn't like he was put out cold. The Pereira fight, again, there was a little bit of a fluke there. I do think he has a pretty good chin. Um, and I think Roundtree is very durable as well. I think this fight's going to go long. I think Hill could take over as the fight goes on. I'm leaning Jamal Hill, but what I really like is the 2.5 here is plus 100 to go over. I like that the most, if anything, in this fight. I am going to lean Jamal Hill, and I'm going to lean him by decision. Um, I think Roundtree's is tough enough. I don't think he's gonna be going in there with as much of a I have to win this fight in the first two rounds mindset. I think he might be a little more conservative with that gas tank. I think they're both durable. Um, I'm actually pretty shocked by that over line. I do think this fight's gonna go long. I like both these guys' decision lines. Jamal Hill's at plus 550, Roundtree's at plus 800, but I do lean the Hill side. I'm going to go Jamal Hill by decision at plus 550. All right, let's jump into the picks. Again, we did good on our own last week, but as a team, we struggled a little bit, usually where we feel the most confident. Let's jump into the red and blue picks together. We'll start with the 3-unit play. We are on Russian Ronda, Irina Alekseeva. Red Ray, why don't you give your thoughts on Irina on this one?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I just think she rolls. I think she's better everywhere against Claudia. I think she could. I think she wins by TKO or submission, either way. But I think she finishes her earlier. She's the only dangerous one in the fight, and Claudia doesn't, unless she really surprises me and levels up big time. I don't think there's any way she wins this fight.
We're going to stick with the chalk parlay. We've had success with these in the past, got away from it last week. We're going to go with Irina, Russian Ronda, parlayed with Oban, the Welsh gangster Elliott. We like Oban a lot this week. I mentioned I think this is a little bit of a step down for him. We saw Ko's only real path to victory in his last fight was he was able to take down his opponent, get some control, beat him up. That's not going to be a path for him here against Oban Elliott. We've seen Oban Elliott level up every time we've seen him in the cage. He's a true prospect, 27 years old. A bit of a step down in competition, in my opinion. I think he's better everywhere on the feet and the ground. I know Red Ray agrees. And then the final piece of this chalk parlay is going to be Sadykhov. Again, I think this is a huge step down in competition. I think he's better everywhere. He's the better technical fighter. He has better cardio. He trains with Merab. We know how much of a machine Merab is. I'm sure that they're pushing the pace together in the gym at all times. Sadykhov 5-0 in the UFC. Motta, a little bit of a fluke record in the UFC at 4-3. Really think Motta's only chance would be a Hail Mary first round knockout. I think Sadykhov wins this fight 9.5 times out of 10. And we're going to do that chalk parlay again. Irina, Oban Elliott, and Sadykhov together gets us to minus 101. That's the 3-unit play. Going to jump into the 2-unit play here. Mutabek, Orolbai, Mutabek, Orolbai, money line, minus 155 is going to be the 2-unit play. Again, he's taking on a 35-year-old who's making his debut in the UFC. I think he's only getting this fight because he's from Baku. He is a good striker, but Orolbai is one of those death wrestle guys who's going to be shooting relentless takedowns on you, and he's good at getting them as well. We do think that there's a path for submission here or decision. Either way, we think this is a good line. He initially opened as an underdog, and all the money's been coming in, and it's still a pretty good price on Orolbai at minus 155. That's going to be the 2-unit play. And then again, not again, but the 1-unit play, we are both on Rafael Fiziev and Red Ray. Explain to us again why we like Fiziev.
Just obviously, this is a big step down in competition. You're going from Gaethje to Bahamondes. We outlined Bahamondes' struggles against guys that fight like Fiziev, just smaller, compact, strong stand-up guys like McDessie and Klein. So I don't know if there's been enough of a improvement in Bahamondes' skills that he's going to be able to go all the way to Fiziev, who's a high top 10 in the division. So I just think Fiziev here, he's going to have the power advantage. I think he could take it to the ground. I think he showed that his ground game is good enough where he can stay safe from the submissions. And so if he wants to win moments on the ground, he can. But I also think he's the much more high-level striker. Obviously, Bahamondes being as tall and long as he is the only real issue here. I think if it's a smaller guy, then where Fiziev is obviously the big favorite. But having Fiziev as a underdog in this position seems like a crazy line, more of like a biased more recency line.
Completely agree. Just looking at our picks this week, I really like our picks. I really do. Last week, I certainly feel much stronger about our picks this week than I did last week. I really, really like our team bets this week, the red and blue picks. Let's get into the individual picks. I will give out mine first. I'm going to do 2 units on Hamdi money line parlayed with over 1.5 rounds in the main event. But first, to touch base on Hamdi, this is the first fight of the night. I think he's better everywhere. I think he's the better striker. He's most definitely the better wrestler, grappler. He's an Olympic wrestler. I'm hoping he utilizes the wrestling. I think he had an injury in the last fight. That's why he didn't wrestle as much. Usman, really low volume, not a knockout guy. Point fighter, not a great round winner. The crowd is going to be on the Hamdi side. I think he could pick up and throw Usman on his head if he wants to. Um, and his striking is better than Usman's, in my opinion. Again, I think he's better everywhere. I think this is a pretty good price on him. I just don't see how Usman wins. The only way Usman could even win this fight is Hamdi would have to get really tired, and Usman would outpoint him in the second and third round. I think that's just really unlikely. I don't see any path really for Usman in this fight. So again, I love Hamdi money line, and again, we were just talking about the main event. I think Jamal Hill and Rountree are both very durable guys. Um, I think they're both going to be a little more patient in this fight. They both have had in their last fights. Very insane paces. I think they're both going to ease their way into this one a little bit more. Um, and they're both very, very durable. Both have good chins. Um, Over 1.5 rounds is -210. I'm going to parlay that with Hamdi money line. I'm doing 2 units on that at +135. And then I'm going to do a 1 unit play on Jun Park with Curtis Blaydes. Um, Jun Park, again, I think it's a little bit of a step down in competition for him. Um, I do think that he's going to impose his will. I think he's going to have a better game plan. I think he's fought better competition, has only lost to good competition. Only losses, a split decision win, you could argue he won against Muniz, um, Robocop, Anthony Hernandez, and even Shavkat Rakhmonov on the regional scene. Meanwhile, Ismail, um, making his second stint in the UFC, couldn't put away Bruno Silva. Um, I think Jun Park is better everywhere. I do think he's the better striker. I do think he's the better wrestler grappler. Um, I picked Jun Park by submission, but I'm just going to go with his money line in this fight. And I'm parlaying that with Curtis Blaydes. I spent a lot of time talking about how I think this is a huge step down for Curtis Blaydes and a huge step up for Kuniev. I think Blaydes is the better striker. He's most definitely the better wrestler grappler. I'm hoping he has that game plan of getting him down. I hope he takes him down and we see the old-fashioned razor blades of getting him in a crucifix position and just raining elbows on his head, splitting him open. Um, and again, Blaydes' kryptonite has always been guys that can true one punch KO him. I don't think Kuniev has that. I think he's been able to finish lower level guys who get a little tired, who kind of quit in the fight. I don't really think he's putting them out as much as they're willing to just be put out. Um, Kuniev has been a pretty durable guy, though. In his 2 losses, he did lose by decision. Um, and we know Blaydes isn't a super heavy-handed one-punch knockout guy. So I do like Blaydes by decision, but I'm just going to do his money line with Jun Park's money line. 1 unit play at +115. Those are my 2 picks. Red Ray, how are you using your 3 units?
I got 2 plays this week. I'm going to do a parlay, 1.5 units. I'm going to have Hamdi and Usman over 2.5, combined with the Irina and Sygula fight under 2.5. The Hamdi fight, we've talked about it a couple of times now. I just don't think either of them really have much finishing equity. I think Hamdi's really the only one with finishing equity. Neither of them hit very hard. Usman has been submitted a couple of times. I think that's the main worry, that the fight's not going to go over the 2.5 if Hamdi can get him down and submit him. But I just don't think that's going to occur. I just think if Hamdi gets him down, then most of it will just be laying on top with some ground and pound. And then when they're on the feet, they're just going to be, I think after the first round, it's going to be a lot of slow strikes with nothing on them. So back and forth. So I just think that fight's going to probably go to decision there. And then the Irina fight, we've talked about that a couple of times now. I just think Irina cruises here. The Irina on inside the distance is probably the play, but I'm just going to play it safe. Irina does have some gas tank issues. God forbid she just passes out in the middle of the cage. So, and then Sygula just lays on her, who knows? But so that we're just gonna put it in there. That's I think plus 114 there, 1.5 units on that. And then my other play is just going to be the Mullins and Daria Zhelezniakova fight, under 2.5 there. It's minus 130. I'm on Mullins here. I think she gets the finish, but I think it's similar to the Malcolm Wellmaker fight last week, where I chose to do the under 1.5 instead of the inside distance, just saving myself from the line's not overly different from the finish to the under 2.5, to where I think Daria has some finishing equity to the point where she could knock out Mullins. We saw in the first fight. Then both of them had dominant portions of their first round before the fight was ended. So I think, like I said, I think Mullins can win this one by submission or KO, but Daria has some finishing equity also, but I don't think it makes it the whole 3 rounds.
Okay. Those are the picks. I'm feeling really good about our picks. I'm really excited. I want to remind everyone this card starts at 12 p.m. on Saturday, as it is across the world in Baku. Main card starts at 3 p.m. on ABC. So again, thanks for listening. Please give us a follow. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please follow us on x.com/R&B Fight Picks. As always, we are always live recapping the picks as they happen. Really looking forward to watching this card. And next week, we have the big one, International Fight Week. The vacant lightweight title is on the line between Ilia Topuria and Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. And in the co-main event, we have the flyweight title on the line with Alexander Pantoja against Kai Kara France. So looking forward to talking to my pal Red Ray, breaking down those fights, giving out our picks next week. Until then, good luck, and we'll see you next week.